Welcome to episode 212 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Laws Guy. It's May 31st, 1961. Bern, in Switzerland. Wankdorf Stadium. The same ground where, 7 years earlier, West Germany shocked Hungary in the miracle of Bern. And today, another team with Hungarians lose a final here. Barcelona have Kubala, Kocsis and Czibor. They're expected to become Europe's next great team. Real Madrid's 5-year reign is over. The European Cup is ready for a new dynasty. And then Benfica win 3-2. Not Real Madrid, not Barcelona. Benfica, a Portuguese club, led by a wandering Hungarian genius named Béla Guttmann, changes the direction of European football. But how did we get here? The European Cup is still young. It begins in 1955, and for its first 5 seasons, it belongs completely to Real Madrid. Di Stefano, Pento, Real, Copa, and Puskas. 5 finals, 5 wins. The first dynasty of European club football. But all dynasties eventually age. Madrid's aura is still enormous, but the next generation is coming, and the obvious heir seems to be Barcelona. Barca have just won La Liga in 1959, and again in 60. Luis Suarez wins the Ballon d'Or. Kubala is still an icon. Sandor Kocsis and Zoltán Czibor, refugees from Hungary's great 1950s team, add genius and tragedy. Evaristo gives them Brazilian flair. Ramallets is in goal. So when Barcelona draw Real Madrid in the first round of the 1960-61 European Cup, it feels like succession. Barca win it. 2-2 in Madrid, 2-1 in Barcelona. The 5-time champions are gone. And Europe now has a new favorite. Barca then beat Radek Králové in the quarterfinal and face Hamburg in the semi-final. They win the first leg 1-0 at Camp Nou. In Hamburg, they trail 2-0 until the final minute when Kocsis scores the goal that forces a replay. At Heysel in Brussels, Evaristo scores and Barcelona win 1-0, and for the first time they're in the European Cup final. The stage is set for their takeover from Real Madrid. And now Benfica. Before Béla Guttmann, Benfica are a giant in Portugal, but not in Europe. They have domestic weight, supporters, history, and the great Lisbon rivalry with Sporting. But the European Cup has not yet been their stage. Then Guttmann arrives. His route to Lisbon is already absurdly rich. Budapest, Hakoah, Vienna, New York, Sao Paulo, Porto, and everywhere in between. A Jewish Hungarian who survives the disasters of the 20th century, becomes a football nomad, and lives by the rule: never stay too long. His famous line is brutal. The first season, the coach works quietly. The second is more difficult, but the third is fatal. At Porto, he wins the Portuguese League in 1959. And then he crosses over to Benfica. He clears out senior players, promotes youth, builds speed with risk and hunger. In 1959 and 60, Benfica win the Portuguese title. In 60-61, they keep rising. And this side has stars. José Aguas, the captain and center forward. José Augusto, Domiciano Cavem, Costa Pereira in goal. And Mário Coluna, from Mozambique, the sacred monster of Benfica's midfield. No Eusébio yet in the European Cup side. That part of the story begins tomorrow. Benfica start against Hearts and win 5-1 on aggregate. Then comes Újpesti Dózsa. In Lisbon, Benfica are 5-0 up after 28 minutes and win 6-2. Then AGF from Aarhus in Denmark. Then Rapid Vienna, 4-1 on aggregate in the semi-final. So here we are. May 31st, 1961, Wankdorf. Barcelona are favorites. And early on, they look like it. They move the ball, they threaten. They have the names, the rhythm, and the expectation. In the 20th minute, Verges scores. Sandor Kocsis dives between defenders and heads Barcelona into the lead. 1-0. Kocsis, the great Hungarian leader of the ball, scoring at the stadium where Hungary's golden generation had once been broken. Barcelona might have gone further ahead, but then, in 2 minutes, the final flips. First, Benfica attack down the left. Cavem gets space. The ball comes across. Ramallets misjudges the danger, moves toward Cavem, and José Aguas is there to finish. 1-1. Before Barcelona can breathe, a throw-in ball comes into the area. A defensive contact by Rensana sends it looping awkwardly toward goal. Ramallets is caught. The ball drops over the line and the goal is given as an own goal by the keeper. 2-1 Benfica. Barcelona protest. They say it didn't cross. The referee is Swiss, Gottfried Dienst. And 5 years later, he will be at Wembley for England against West Germany, at the center of the most famous goal line controversy in World Cup history. Here in Bern, he is certain. Goal. Benfica lead. And in halftime, Barcelona are stunned, but not finished. And then comes the goal that turns this final into Benfica mythology. Coluna had broken his nose early in the match. He is not charging into the 6-yard box looking for contact. He is hanging deeper, just outside the area. In the 55th minute, the ball drops to him, and he hits it first time, a thunderous volley. 3-1 Benfica. And now Barcelona chase. Kubala comes close in almost impossible fashion. His shot hits one post, travels across the goal mouth, hits the other post, and comes back out. Barcelona claimed the ball crossed the line. Again, no goal. The square posts of Bern become part of Barca folklore. The ball strikes the frame again and again. It feels as if geometry itself is against them. And later, that geometry will become part of the final's legacy. With 15 minutes left, Kocsis and Czibor scores beautifully from distance, 3-2, and now the final is alive. Barcelona push, Benfica hold, Costa Pereira saves, Benfica survive. Final whistle, Benfica 3, Barcelona 2. Real Madrid's reign is over, Barcelona's coronation is cancelled, and Benfica are champions of Europe. But so what? First, Benfica don't disappear. They come back the next year, and this time Eusébio is there. In fact, his competitive Benfica debut comes the day after this final. Benfica had asked for their Portuguese Cup match against Vitória Setúbal to be moved. The federation refused. The first team were still returning from Bern, so Benfica fielded reserves. Eusébio played, scored, missed a penalty, and Benfica went out of the cup. A strange beginning, but a year later, he helps Benfica beat Real Madrid 5-3 in the 1962 European Cup final. That is the real changing of the guard. Puskás scores a hat-trick for Madrid and loses. Eusébio scores twice for Benfica and wins. Then Guttmann leaves. The story becomes legend. He asks for more money, or a bonus, or recognition. The board refuses. He walks away. The quote changes depending on the telling, but the myth is this. Without me, Benfica will not win another European Cup for 100 years. And Benfica haven't won another senior European trophy since. They reached the 1963 final, chasing 3 in a row, and lose to Milan at Wembley. That's the final we covered in episode 203. Then more finals, more pain, more curse. But whether you believe in curses or not, the football point is real. Guttmann's Benfica were one of the great short-lived teams in European history. Guttmann kept moving. Peñarol, Austria, other stops, one last return to Porto. He died in Vienna in 1981. The Wanderer never really stopped being a wanderer. And Barcelona? This is one of the great what-ifs. Had they won in Bern, maybe the 1960s begin differently. Maybe Barcelona become Europe's second great dynasty. And maybe Luis Suarez stays. Instead, money problems bite. Suarez is sold to Inter, where Elenio Herrera turns him into the brain of Grande Inter, the Catenaccio machine that will dominate Europe. Barcelona wait until 1992 to win this trophy, 31 years after Bern. And the final also left a physical trace on the game itself, because Bern was not only remembered for Barcelona losing, it was remembered for Barcelona losing to the posts. Kubala's shot hit one square upright, ran across the goal mouth, hit the other and came back out. Other Barca efforts also struck the woodwork, and in the memory of the match, the square post of Wankdorf became almost a character in the story, hard, angular, unforgiving. Now we should be careful. Football didn't change the shape of goalposts because of one match alone. But the 1961 final became one of the great reference points in the move away from square posts toward round, cylindrical, and later elliptical posts at the highest level. The argument was simple. Square posts produced more violent, less predictable rebounds. Rounder posts were cleaner, safer, and fairer to the attacking team. So Benfica's win did not only redirect European football history, it helped mark the symbolic end of the square post era. That is why this final matters. It's not just Benfica beating Barcelona. It is the end of Real Madrid's first empire. It is Barcelona missing their first European destiny. It's Benfica announcing a new one. And it is Béla Guttmann, football's greatest restless coach, reaching the summit exactly before the third season could become fatal. Now, 3 things to take away from May 31st, 1961. First, Benfica's win ended the age of the European Cup. Ended the first age of the European Cup. Real Madrid had owned the competition. After Bern, Europe belonged to somebody else. Second, Barcelona were not unlucky nobodies. They were the likely heirs. Kubala, Suarez, Kocsis, Czibor, and Evaristo. That is why the defeat hurt so deeply. And third, Béla Guttmann was not a footnote to the curse. He was the architect. His Benfica changed Portuguese football, European football, and the meaning of what a coach could be. On this day in 1961, Benfica beat Barcelona 3-2 at the Wankdorf in Bern, ended the first Real Madrid era of the European Cup, broke Barcelona hearts on the square posts, and gave Béla Guttmann his crowning achievement. That is all for episode 212 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Laws Guy. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the show, leave a 5-star rating, and share it with a fellow football historian. If you got ideas or a story you want me to chase, you can always reach me at otd@17lawsguy.com. Tomorrow, we go to June 1st, 1978, and the goalless curse of World Cup opening matches. Sometimes the biggest tournament in football begins with the 90 minutes of nothing. See you tomorrow.